Hello everybody, today we're going to be closing out the series on St. Thomas Aquinas' De Principiis Naturae with the 6th chapter called Unity and Diversity Within Causes. So, first we're going to talk about a few different kinds of unity. Something could be the same specifically but different numerically. That is, like Plato and Socrates. This is to say that they can have the same species but differ in number. So there are multiple humans. Plato and Socrates are both humans. That's a species, so they have the same specifically. Then something could be the same generically but different specifically. That would be like Socrates and a donkey. Socrates and a donkey are both animals, but they have different species. And then finally, we have the same analogically, but different generically. This would be like substance and quantity. So another example of this would be substance and relation, or something like posture and quantity. These are all clearly different things, which are only the same analogically. Now, Aquinas is going to go over 3 different kinds of predication here. One is called univocal predication, one is analogical predication, and one is equivocal predication. So the example that he's going to use of analogical predication is being, as predicated across the 10 genera. And then he mentions the 3 kinds of predication: univocal, equivocal, and analogical. So first, univocal predication. When something is predicated according to the same name and the same nature. So something is predicated univocally when it's predicated in exactly the same way, basically. So if you have 2 humans, they both univocally have humanity. They may be different people, but the humanity in them is the same. Another example of this would be 2 green things of the same shade, or just colors in general. Colors all have colorness, whatever that is, univocally. It's the same in all of them. Next, we have equivocal predication. This is when something is common in name only and not in signification. So think of a baseball bat or a bat, the flying rodent. The name doesn't convey anything similar about the two. It's just they happen to share the same name. Then there's analogy of agreement. That is where there's a diversity of nature, but they're related to the same thing, such as an animal body, urine, and medicine. These are all called healthy, but there isn't any like ontological thing in them which is univocal or equivocal. Urine is a sign of health, body is the subject of health, and medicine is the cause of health. So they all have a relation to health, and that is where the analogy is. Then there's analogy of proportion. This is just analogy by shared proportions. So think of 2 is to 6 as 3 is to 9. They have a similar proportion of being the first number times 3. So I guess you could say this is a common denominator they have. Then there's analogy of attribution. This is when multiple things are attributed to one subject, and we circle back to being as analogous. So being is said primarily of substance. Substances exist in themselves, and other things exist in substances. So being is said primarily of substance, and then of the other 9 genera, it's only said of them insofar as they are related to substance, because they exist in substance. And then finally, we have closing notes for the series. Those things which are numerically identical in matter and form are the same, such as Tullius and Cicero, or Cicero, if you want to be nice and classical about it. They are actually the same person, just with different names. Next, those things which are different numerically and formally can still be the same specifically, such as Socrates and Plato. They both have humanity. Those things which are different specifically can still be the same generically, such as Socrates and a donkey. They're both animals. And finally, those things that differ generically can be the same only analogously. The 10 genera, matter, form, and privation, and act and potency, all of these things are only the same by analogy. Yeah, and that'll be all for this series. It's done. Feels good.